Okay, time being 7 p.m., I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the traditional territory acknowledgement, followed by a moment of silence. Council of the Township of Red Rock hereby acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Robinson Superior Treaty, and that the land we gather on is home to the Red Rock Indian Band, the Anishinaabe, and the Métis people. Administration advises that there is no new amendments to the agenda. Do any members of council wish to make amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Can I have a mover and seconder for motion to approve the agenda as presented? Councillor McDonald. Councillor Tedesco. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Are there any declarations of interest to disclose? Seeing none. Tonight we have Kristen from BDO here to present the 2021 draft financial audits for the Township of Red Rock and the Red Rock Library. Hi, Kristen.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me on my end?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, you ready for me to do the financial statement presentation now? All right, okay, well, we'll maybe get right into some of these numbers. I'm assuming everyone has a copy of the financial statements in front of them.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Perfect, all right. All right, well, maybe we'll just kind of walk through some of the highlights here of the financial results. And I met with Mark and Sam, I guess, late last week, and I kind of made the comment to them that these statements do look a little bit strange, but in a good way, I think, overall. So you'll see that as I walk through these draft statements here tonight. And I would just like to start, I guess, on page number 3 is where the BDO Independent Auditors Report is located. It goes on for a couple of pages, but I just want to touch on some of the highlights here that's contained in this audit report here. And if we start on page number 3, we do have a qualified opinion, and except for the matter that I'm going to talk about after this, the financial statements are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. The one qualification that is in the financial statements has been in the financial statements for many years, and that's relating to the fact that the landfill liability isn't set up in these financial statements. So under the PSAB standards, the requirement is there to come up with a value for closure and post-closure costs of the landfill, and this has never been done. So as a result, we do have this qualification in here once again. If we were ever to look at getting rid of this, it would have to involve kind of getting an engineering firm together to put together the study. And they determine things like how many years are left at the facility, cost to close the landfill, and also 20 years of post-closure costs as well. And if that was all done, then we would be able to record the liability here in these financial statements. But that's just the qualification there. But other than that, the financial statements are in accordance with the accounting standards that we would expect. Further on this page number 3, it just talks about how BDO was independent of the township and that we followed all the ethical requirements to conduct the audit here to present these statements to you today. And then page 4 talks about the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance at the very top of that page. Management's responsible for the day-to-day preparation of the bookkeeping, determining the accounting policies that the township follows, also designing internal controls to safeguard assets. So it kind of lists what management's responsibility is there. It also talks about those charged with governance, which would be council here today, essentially just overseeing the whole audit process, asking any questions that you may have on these financial statements so we can approve them here tonight. It also starts at the bottom and on to the next page about all the auditor's responsibilities. I won't go through it in too much detail, but it is a good read if anybody is curious exactly what the auditors are responsible for. Obviously, looking and identifying areas that would have higher risk and material misstatement, looking at internal controls that would cover some of those risks, looking at these financial statements and making sure they're in accordance with the accounting standards, and making sure that the bookkeeping makes sense and that it's all appropriate for these presentation of these statements. So that's kind of the audit report there, summarized at a high level there for those 3 pages. And then if we kind of jump to page number 6 is where some of the numbers begin. So page number 6 is the consolidated statement of financial position. And this is really just shows all the assets and liabilities of the township at a snapshot in time. So we're looking here at December 31st, 2021, and the comparative period there for 2020. The first category there is listed, it would be financial assets. So this would be things that would be easily convertible into cash, or items that would be quicker to turn over. So that includes the first item here, which would be cash. So you'll see that that is up from the previous year to be sitting at almost 1.9 million there. We've got taxes receivable, and this is kind of where there's a line item here that kind of looks unusual when you compare year over year. So in the taxes receivable line that comes to 2,302,000 there, that's a very large jump from 477,000 the previous year. But what this represents is the settlement that was received on the mill properties subsequent to year end. So of that 2.3 million that is shown there, almost 2.1 million relates to the mill properties. And the remaining piece has to do with property taxes that would be outstanding from property owners in the community. We've got the next line item here, which would be accounts and grants receivable. That's sitting at 2.6 million approximately. And this refers mainly to the provincial and federal portions owing to the township for the wastewater facility. It also includes such things as HST rebates that's owing from CRA, and some smaller grants that would consist of some NOHFC funding, as well as Federation of Canadian Municipalities that some funding was received for an accessibility study. So all in all, those kind of total up to that 2.6 million, with the largest pieces mainly due to the wastewater facility. And then we've got user charges and user charges receivable, which comes in at $58,653. And that's mainly just the water billings that were outstanding at the end of December. And then we've got inventory held for resale here. And I just want to highlight this quickly. What this represents is 2 things mainly. One would be properties that have been taken back as vested properties to the township, as well as the mill properties are also included there. So the big changes from 2020 to 2021, within 2021, there was one property that was vested. I believe it was a Rankin Street property. And then also with the mill issue being resolved, the properties that the municipality took back is now being recorded as inventory for resale, as the old taxes were never collected. So essentially it's the taxes that weren't collected, but we're sitting it here as inventory held for resale because these properties could be sold in the future. So we've split it out a little bit differently this year just because I thought it was important, and it is a fairly large number now with those mill properties being included in there. So that kind of goes through the financial asset piece there that comes in at $7,067,215. And then we've got the liabilities piece here that's listed next. So we've got bank indebtedness of about $690,000, and this is the line of credit and essentially bridge financing for the wastewater facility plant. We've got accounts payable and accrued liabilities that's sitting there at a little over 2.3 million. And the largest piece of that comes to about $2 million and so in holdbacks and progress billings on the wastewater treatment plant. So once that project is done, we'll see that number drop much lower moving forward. We've got a little bit of vested sick leave. So this is just estimated sick leave payout for staff if they were to retire. We kind of come up with some assumptions there to come up with a value that would be sitting on the books. We've got deferred revenue here of $529,984. And what this represents is monies that's still set aside for future projects or things that are earmarked for specific purpose. The biggest piece that's included in that, if you were to dive into note number 5, is mainly the federal gas tax. And that was sitting at about $430,000 or so that was sitting there for that specific piece of funding. Also included in that $530,000 is some FedNor funding for an RV park and community strategy papers, as well as an accessibility grant as well. And then some smaller items like soccer dues and some beautification and things like that, that are all making up that deferred revenue balance. The long-term debt has continued to decrease this year. There's $371,000 outstanding at the end of December. Those would be the 2 Ontario infrastructure debentures that are sitting there. So that gives us total liabilities of $3,982,955. One item I do want to highlight here is just the net financial assets. You'll see that that number has increased this year, and that's a good news story. That's kind of an indicator of whether it's a strong statement of financial position, and the higher this number is the better to see. And it also looks good in all the ratio analysis with when you submit your FIR. And then down below is your non-financial assets. So this would be anything that is currently being used by the township. So the biggest thing that's going through this non-financial assets would be tangible capital assets. So that's almost 31 million that's there. It's continued to increase in 2021 just due to the continued improvements in building added on to the wastewater facility, as well as some bridge work that was done. I know that also you were beginning your sewer and water main replacements as well. So some of those numbers are also included in your tangible capital asset number. And then lastly on this page is just prepaid expenses and inventories of supplies, and that comes in around 61,500. And this is mainly just the fuel at the marine and the public works yard. So if we work our way down to the bottom here, we can see the accumulated surplus that's sitting here of $34,143,366. And we'll go through the accumulated surplus note maybe a little bit later as we continue through these financial statements. Maybe I'll just pause here. Any questions so far on this first page before we kind of move along?
Councillor Muir.
I was just on page 6 with regards to, because the statements were taken December 31st, 2021, like that was their base date, but the taxes receivable on the for the payout, it looks like we accounted for possibly January to October. Just wondering the reasoning behind putting that full lump back to that date of the 21st. So yeah, because there's about 10 months there that wouldn't have been available. 10 months worth of revenue taxable wouldn't have been available on that date.
So I guess the comment there is I know you got the settlement amount in September there for 2.1 million and change or so. We've accrued the portion that related to 2021 fiscal and back. So all the balances that had never been paid previous to 2021. I know that the township did receive some monies from the mill properties from January to September, but those amounts are not accrued in these financial statements. It's only the 2021 and previous property taxes for all those properties.
Okay, so then I guess in theory next year, that tax receivable, you'll see a bump in that as well too then.
Well, the taxes receivable number, I would expect that to drop when we get to December 31st, 2022, because that payment was received in September of 2022.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, ish.
Okay. The reason for it looks strange too is because if you remember back to previous years, this has been an ongoing issue for many, many years with the mill property, right? And In the previous years, we had written off the balances because we weren't sure if they were actually going to be collectible through all of the legal proceedings and whatnot. So they had always been impaired, or not, I guess I shouldn't say impaired, but they were always considered a doubtful account. So now in, hindsight 2020 also, but we're still working on these financial statements, and we knew that the mill check did come through. Then we kind of reversed all of those in those provisions that we previously had, and we're showing the full balance because we know for 100% that the money did come into the bank account. So that's why it's sitting as receivable at the end of December. All right. Well, I'll touch on that too, and then we get to the next page too, because you'll see some strange numbers here as well when we start to look at page number 7. So page number 7 here, this just shows the statement of operations and accumulated surplus. So this is the page here that shows all the revenues and all the expenses for the year. And this page is a little bit different because we also have the 2021 budget numbers in there as well. So it just gives you the ability to kind of compare to what you had budgeted versus what the actuals were for 2021, and then comparing them to the previous year, the 2020 fiscal year as well. So if we start at the top and kind of work our way through here, we've got the revenue broken up into essentially 4 different categories here. So we've got your taxation revenue, and we've got that split between residential, commercial, and taxation from other governments. So that's all sitting there broken up separately, and it is very similar to what you had budgeted and increased a little bit compared to the previous year. User charges, we've got split into water and sewer billings. So that came in at 417,000 versus 315,000 in the previous year, which does look a little bit strange, but it's kind of due to when the invoices were actually issued. There's actually 13 months that was recorded in 2021 compared to only 11 months. The December water bill didn't get picked up until January this year, just due to the system conversion. As well, this year there was also some like a 2% increase with businesses being back up and running after COVID. I'm sure there was some additional water billings on your commercial side that you'd see that would be flowing through there. So kind of all 3 of those reasons there kind of make up for the increase year over year. Other fees and service charges would include, marina fees, fuel sales, bowling league, some other odds and ends for various fees that are charged throughout the community. So that's coming in there at about 115,000 for 2021. We've got government transfers, and that's split into federal government transfers and provincial. So just the different type of funding agencies we split between federal and provincial. So on the federal side, there was about 974,000 in revenue that came in, mainly from Infrastructure Canada for the wastewater facility, as well as some funding from FedNor for a couple special projects. On the provincial side, you'll see there, it comes to a little over 2.6 million. And the biggest pieces, once again, kind of relate to the infrastructure piece around the wastewater facility. Also, you have your annual Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund funding that's through there. Municipal affairs and some funding from NOHFC was included in that provincial line as well. It is down from the previous year because in the previous year there was a lot more activity on the facility, the capital project that was going on. So a lot of that's just timing of when those claims were put in. And last year on the revenue side would be other revenue. So we've got permits, licenses, and fines that's coming in, and that's sitting at 262,500, which looks a little bit strange when you're looking at 2020, but the biggest piece that's in here would be interest that was charged on property taxes. And in 2020, you guys had decided to waive some of those interest fees. So the number in 2020 is much lower. If we went back to the 2019 and the 2018 financial statements, the number has historically come in around 230,000 to about 260,000 or so. So it is comparative when you look at the other years previous to 2020. We also had a little bit of investment income there that was earned on the bank accounts of about 15,000. There was a line that we set up this year called recoveries of $42,257, and that was fees that was received from the mill for the legal fees that were incurred. So we're showing that separately on this line called recoveries this year. And there was also some land sales during the year that totaled 50,000. Approximately, there was a sale of some CPR road properties and a Cannot property, I believe, and that's where those sales have been shown in these financial statements. So all in all there, we've got $6,049,526 on the revenue side. On the expense side here, when you go through this, you'll see it looks a little bit odd. In the general government line here, you can see it is in brackets. So it's in a negative position of $900,584, which you normally would not see, but this is due to the mill properties. And when I was talking about the fact that in previous years, we had written off the property taxes and any interest that had been accumulated because we weren't sure what was going to happen if the money was actually going to be received. So this year, when we realized that everything was going to be received, that there was a $1.6 million recovery of previous bad debts that had been written off. So that 1.6 million is what's throwing this number, that 900,000, into a negative. And if you wanted, you could refer to note 15 or even the segmented information later on, and it shows that number specifically in there. And we can go through that a little bit later as well. But that's kind of a one-time thing that you'll see going through here. Myself personally, I've never seen this be in a negative position, but it is due to the fact that you were able to recover on those mill properties. The protection to persons and properties, that includes expenses that relate to fire and policing, and that's pretty comparable to what you had budgeted, and a little inflationary increase from the previous year to come in at about 295,000 or so. Transportation services would include mainly, your public works and your roads. That's all included in that line there, and that came in at 792,800 approximately. Environmental services, this would include water and sewer, and it is up a fair bit, 908,200. Last year was about 439,000. And the reason for the increase there is primarily due to the fact that you have the contracted service with Ontario Clean Water Agency to run the facility. And that cost $245,000 in the 2021 fiscal year. You wouldn't have seen that cost in the previous year as well. And going forward, I know that cost does increase a little bit as well. So this 908,000 is probably closer to what you'll see on an annualized basis moving forward. Health and services, that came in around 54,000. That's mainly fees that are paid to the health unit and for ambulance services. Social and family services, 45,202 is mainly the payment that goes to DSAB. And then we've got recreational and cultural services. So just all the community events that happen in Red Rock here, total about 620,800 and so, which is up, but that's kind of to be expected as things were, reopening from COVID. I would say 2020 numbers would be a little bit deflated compared to normal. And then last but not least, we've got planning and developments at 81,500 or so, which included, strategic plans, the RV study, things like that were all included in this planning and development line. So all in all, the expenses there total $1,896,778. If you take the revenues above, subtract the expenses, we've got a surplus there for, I guess, for PSAB purposes of $4,152,748. So I guess that's a positive way. I guess just from your perspective, I know that normally when you look at your budgets and everything, you're not looking at them in accordance with the accounting standards. you'd be more looking at all the revenues that came in, less the expenses, less your capital assets and long-term debt repayments. If you were to look at it from that perspective, just to give you a little bit of just something to compare it to, your non-PSAB surplus for the year was really closer to 1,700,000 or so, if you were looking at it that way. So just different ways of viewing PSAB versus what you would normally see when you're reviewing budgets, obviously a bit different. So maybe I'll pause there. I know there was a few things just to see if there's any additional questions on that side.
Nope, no questions. So you can keep going.
Okay. All right, those are the main statements of the financial statements. There is a few notes that I just want to bring to everyone's attention, and maybe just a couple of different ways maybe to look at some of the information that I've gone over. A lot of this, the significant accounting policies that start on page 10, I won't go through that. That's just included in the financial statements every year. And a lot of these notes contain just information, maybe a little bit more information compared to what I had gone through earlier. But a couple of the notes I just wanted to quickly go over here. Just going to scroll down here and find it on my side. I guess the biggest one here that I just want to highlight is on page 24. Note number 15. So note number 15 would be new to the financial statements this year. And it's just talking about subsequent events. So once again, I know I've talked about it a few times, but it's just highlighting the users of the financial statements that subsequent to year end, the township did receive a large payment over $2 million relating to property taxes and interest, which was previously considered uncollectible. And as a result, this resulted in a recovery of bad debts of $1,651,329. And I can show that to you in a little bit, couple different formats here in the statements, but that's just so if anyone that's reading these statements kind of can wrap their head around why some of these numbers look a little bit different. And then also here, we've just noted that there was 2 vested properties that sold subsequent to year end. So that's just included there in the subsequent events note. Note 16. I haven't really touched on this anywhere else in these financial statements. So on the next page, on page 25, under the PSAB standards, any large contracts that are entered into, we're supposed to disclose the commitments in the financial statements. And what this is kind of referring to is the commitment that you have with Ontario Clean Water Agency. It just splits out what the required payments are each year, just based on the contract that was signed. So that is in here as well. And then note 17 kind of goes through, when I was talking on the statement of operations about all the different segments, it just gives you a little bit more information about what was included in each of those segments. And actually on page number, the second last page there, page 27, it kind of gives you a different view on how to look at the statement of operations as well. So we have already gone through these numbers. We've looked at this expense line there that comes to that grand total there at the end of 1,896,778, that at the very bottom of that 2021 total. But if you wanted to see kind of why that general government expense line looks so strange, you can easily see it here in this different format. So on the very first column there, you can see in negatives that recovery of bad debt that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. And then you can see all the other expenses that would have been included in the general government line there. So thought I would just point that out because it gives you a different way of looking at it. The main statement that we went through just has the segment number that's at the very bottom for each category, whereas this kind of gives you a little bit more of a breakout. All right. Mark, is there anything else that you kind of want to add on these financial statements?
Sorry, Kristen. No, not unless there's any specific questions that need to be answered. But I think you've went through it in detail.
Like I said, they are strange looking numbers, but overall, I think it is a good news story. It kind of just shows that you know, the money did come through for the mill properties and allows you a little bit of wiggle room there. So I think overall, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think maybe just to answer Councillor Mears' question from early on, this does represent the 2021 where we stood at that time. So there is another story to tell in 2022. There is some numbers that will flow through that year as well. But it is a little complicated. I know that but I think like Kristen said, it shows a good news story at this point. So.
Councillor Tedesco.
Kristen, you mentioned that there's a little bit of wiggle room. Now, the $2 million that was given for the mill tax properties, that will show up in the next year's budget, correct? So will that increase the wiggle room, so to speak?
I guess that kind of maybe refers me a little bit to, if you go back maybe to page 21 here as well, note number 8, this kind of talks about all of your reserve funds. So I know that you guys have the certain reserve funds that are set aside, and you have certain funds allocated to that. And there's a variety of different categories that's listed there on page 21. You've got your community infrastructure, we've got library capital expenditures, you know, public works, et cetera, et cetera. But where kind of that taxes that came in the door is kind of grouped right now is in working capital. So I guess that would be up to administration and future council on, does some of this money get allocated to a reserve fund? Is there a specific purpose for it? Or do we leave it as a working capital buffer and, you know, work that into future budgets as well? I think that's something that maybe management or administration can provide a little bit of information on. But I think, you know, I think it does help from a cash flow perspective, A, and B, just looking from like a ratio perspective. When you look at all the ratios on the FIR for all the municipalities, I think it helps boost some of the numbers that the township has had over the years. Because, you know, over the years we've had write-offs because we weren't sure whether some of this property tax was going to come through. So at the end of the day, now this is coming through. So it'll have to be, you know, a decision on what these funds will be used towards.
Councillor Muir.
Yeah, just a question on the, like, back to the environmental services, because I kind of noted on that one for the increase of the 908,000. Pardon me, get the frog in my throat. So I mean, it shows on page 25 the cost of Aqua, but then even if you add the 2020 actual plus whatever the contract price was, there's still almost a $200,000 difference. So there's a pretty big spread there between what Aqua is getting paid and the jump. So there's like 177K that has been accounted for that we were just kind of told that was Aqua cost. But where was that for environmental services? Because that wouldn't have been contract cost.
I think the other piece that's in there too, and it doesn't make up for that whole difference. However, a big chunk of it, there was $117,000 loss that's also going through that particular line item there, which relates to the previous facility that was written off because it's no longer in use. So it's not necessarily a cash transaction, but there was $117,000 in addition to the Aqua stuff that's going through that line item that wouldn't have been in the previous year.
Okay.
The remaining difference is obviously inflationary costs or some other costs that were incurred, but those were two big things, were the new contract with Aqua as well as that write down of the old facility. That's the biggest difference.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that wasn't all the cost of the contract, because when we did go through the contract, okay, it took me by hand off guard there. It's kind of like, no, that wasn't contract price, I remember, but okay, thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah, and when you do look at our contract price, I mean, you're correct. It is, I mean, it is basically 300,000 a year. I mean, give or take a few cents here or there for these. But the other big piece to that is we operated a pretty basic small facility at one point in Red Rock.
Right.
And now we're operating a state-of-the-art facility. And we're finding that it significantly cost us at least 4 times what the last facility cost us to operate. So when we talk about wiggle room, there's a lot of challenges ahead. This is a good news story, but there is a lot of challenges ahead.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on Kristen's report? Do we want to go through the library one and then we'll go through the motions after?
Sure, that works for me.
Yeah.
This one will be quicker, I promise. All right, so if we flip to the library board here, once again, starting on page number 2, we have the independent auditor's report, but I won't go through everything again, but just maybe to highlight that there is no qualifications in this audit report. These statements are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards, and there was no issues that we found on our end that would preclude us from issuing a clean audit opinion on the library. So with that being said, if we kind of jump to page number 4 here and work our way through page 4, like in the previous set of statements we looked at, this is talking about here the statement of financial position. So when we look at all of the assets that are listed here in the financial asset category, there's only 3. We've got the bank account that was held by the library of $5,890. We've got a little bit of accounts receivable there for $165, which is just some HST rebates that would have been filed after year end and received. And then we've got the final payment here that was receivable from the township that came in at $24,432. So we've got total financial assets there of $30,487. Minimal accounts payable and liabilities, just a small amount there for $2,871, which is comparable to the previous year. And then down below, we've got your non-financial assets, which consists mainly of your capital assets. And in this case, since we're talking about the library, that mainly consists of library books and some computer equipment as well. So that came in at around $40,238. And at the end of the day, we've got an accumulated surplus here in the library of $68,224. So pretty straightforward here on the statement of financial position. And then the next page here just goes over the statement of operations. So all the revenues and the expenses. By far the largest revenue source that's coming in here would be the contribution from the township that came in at $96,958. We've got a couple small grants here, one that came from Employment and Social Development Canada for $834, as well as a piece that came from the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. It's the same amount as you normally get that came in at $3,242. We've got a little bit of miscellaneous income that sits at about $1,600 and a small amount of interest earned on the bank account for $91. So all in all, $102,732 in revenue, which is very close to what was budgeted. As you can see there, the budget was $102,400, so very, very close. And then on the expense side, we've got total expenses of $91,271. We've got a variety of smaller expenses, but just to kind of touch on maybe some of the larger ones, we've got the accounting fee that's charged across from the township there of $5,500. We've got amortization, which is essentially the library books that have been purchased over the years. We don't expense it right away. We amortize it over, so many years. So the portion that's getting written off this year is $7,850. There's another bigger item here would be the computer supplies that came in at $2,991. We've got the rent allocation here that came from the township as well of $2,500. And the biggest piece, which I'm sure comes to the surprise of no one, is the salaries and benefits for the staff that are working at the library. And that came in at $63,810, up from the previous year, because I know there was some more part-time staff that was helping out, and the hours were increased compared to when we were going through COVID times. So that kind of explains the increase there. Some small equipment purchases for about $1,600. And then the other line item that's a little bit larger would be the supplies line as well, that came in at $1,460. So all in all, expenses were up a little bit from the previous year. A little bit, not a ton, more inflationary increase. And still it was less than what was budgeted. So at the end of the day here, we're sitting with a surplus in the library of $11,461. So that's kind of the highlights here of the library board. Any questions on this particular set of statements? This one's pretty straightforward.
Any questions? No, seeing none. Okay, any final call? Anybody have any questions or comments on Kristen's report or BDO's report? It's all clear as mud. It makes it a little more difficult when, once we receive that sum of money. So it's throwing some of the numbers off, but you think you know how it works, and then you see something like this. So thank you. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to accept the 2021 draft financial audit for the Township of Red Rock from BDO Dunwoody? Councillor Park, Councillor McDonald. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Is there a mover and seconder for a motion to accept the 2021 draft financial audit for the Red Rock Public Library from BDO Dunwoody? Councillor Muir, Councillor Tedesco. All in favor? All hands rising, motion is carried. Thank you very much, Kristen. And thank you for explaining it to us.
All right, thanks for having me.
You have a good night.
Thank you, take care.
Okay, the open and closed session minutes of the last regular meeting, October 17th, are at items 5.1 of the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions to note in the open or closed session minutes? May I have a mover and seconder for motion to approve the minutes at items 5.1? Councillor Park, Councillor McDonald. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, first item of correspondence is discussion purposes relating to the donation to the Christmas Cheer Fund. Do any members of council have any questions? Councillor Muir.
Are we still in lame duck? So that'd be up to the CEO?
No, the only, you are still in lame duck, but if the CAO's duties begin at 50,000. So you as a council still have the ability to make any decision under $50,000.
Okay.
Councillor McDonald.
What do we usually contribute to them? Every year we give them 250?
Well, consistently this year, we've been giving 250.
Okay. I say go for 250.
Okay. Where am I at here? Okay, is there a mover and a seconder for motion to donate $250 to the Christmas Cheer Fund? Councillor Park, Councillor McDonald. All in favor? All hands rising, motion is carried. This is going to help them out a lot. Next item, information purposes relating to a letter from the Red Rock Legion. Do any members of council have any questions? Councillor Muir.
Yeah, so I've reached out to Linda, and I'm going to go meet with them. I've been speaking to people in town. There is a bunch of people interested in helping out. So I've talked to our bowling team, fantastic bowling team, but we've had some ideas that we think that we can take that to the Legion. I've talked to Councillor McDonald as well too. So there's a lot of people that are going to kind of step up here. I've sent a memo off to Live from the Rock because the plan was back before the last folk festival was to have Live from the Rock skier. And then if there was an artist playing in Thunder Bay and they're heading south, then maybe they'd stop here for a night, play a show, right? So we're going to start working on that, and I'll take that back to them again and see, because I think, yeah, again, now's the time to kind of pick things up here. And again, it's a matter of, we need a babysitting course. We need to get more babysitters in town, and I can assure you that there will be more people going out. We definitely. So.
Anyone else, questions or comments? Councillor Tedesco.
I believe that the Red Rock Legion is perhaps looking for a donation. We do need to keep in mind the importance of the Legion to our community in a number of areas, and they're suffering. Perhaps if there is a bit of wiggle room, Mark, you might be able to figure something out to assist them.
Well, first of all, yeah, we can reach out as a municipality. So as CAO, I will definitely reach out to them on behalf of the township. If there's anything that's done in a different avenue, then let me know. But certainly we will commit, and we'll take that direction from I guess the next group as well. But again, I would stress that it should go through the CAO in that matter. And certainly if we can help them out in any way or collectively meet them, then we'll do that.
Currently, the Township of Red Rock does not collect taxes from the Legion. They only pay the education tax, I do believe. So that was implemented quite a few years ago, I believe, and that's been ongoing. So some people don't know that, but that was something we did back then to help them out. Councillor Muir.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think, they're looking for a donation. I think this is a wake-up call. I think this letter here is an absolute wake-up call to Red Rock right now. We have to come to the terms that we don't start going to the Legion weekly and doing things there, they're going to shut their doors. So that's on everybody in this town now to get to that Legion. If you're going to do an event, go to the Legion, go shoot some pool, have 2 beers. That's $10 in the coffers. Like, we have to get to the Legion as much as we can. Take events there, make it a place again, right? That's the main thing, right? We have to support the Legion. I think it's time to do that now.
Councillor McDonald.
I just think like not everybody watches these council meetings or comes to council meetings or reads the bulletin board. Not everybody knows what's going on here. So I feel like reaching out and letting the community, how do we let the community know? There's always social media. I find the Legion stuff's not posted on there as much as it could be. Like, how do we let the community members know that this is struggling, and that we need more younger people to come out and volunteer, and you know what I mean? I think just we need to get it out there more, let people know, like if we don't use it, we're going to lose it. And I also thought about maybe contacting, like talking with the Legion group and letting them know maybe if they contact some of these utility companies, there could be some like help that they could get through the Hydro One. Maybe they'd have some kind of rebates that they can help them with. Yeah, it does say that what they're looking for is they're short on ideas and volunteers to help out. So ideas and volunteers is a really good way to help them.
Yeah, and we actually just received this letter yesterday in the office, so we decided to throw it on because for two reasons. Late because I think it is important, and I think we have to at minimum come to their aid, right? And at least speak with them, and that's what they're asking for is that. So yeah, certainly I will take that on. I'll meet them, but I think it's a general message for this group, the new group coming in, that at least we got that message out there today, that they are struggling. They're not unique. Every community, I think Red Rock would probably be one of the more active legions still out there that I can speak of in the North Shore for sure. So again, we're limited as to things we can do, and we have taken financial aid with taxes, and that is a big part, I'm sure, but definitely as a group moving forward, I think we collectively sit down and have those discussions with them, and if there's any way we can help or provide advice, then I think that's what we do.
Councillor Mayor.
Yeah, so if the township can promote to like through social media, because I mean, there's a bunch of people that are willing to step up. But I mean, when you have a band playing, if you got an artist coming on a Sunday night and it's 7:00 and 5 people show up, you know, like we got to make sure that we market it and that people go in there and people are ready to go, right? And at any time, right? It's going to be one of those things where let's market it, let's let people know that things are happening, and then I think we'll be okay, though. I really do.
Thank you for all your comments. That's information, obviously, that we'll get back to them. And we all look forward to working with the Legion and getting it a little more lively. Okay, moving on, item 8.1, report on administrative activity. Do any members of council have any questions of Mr. Figlamini? Councillor Muir?
Are we able to have the report from tonight put in the new council package for the new councilors to review and have a discussion? I know it's passed, but even just to go through a few things. Management letter as well. Is that something that we could look at doing and circling back just so everybody's aware? And
no, for sure, 100%. I mean, we deemed it essential, both from an auditor perspective and from a management perspective, to have those numbers in front of this council. But the reality is we do change council next week. So the plan is obviously to bring the new group up to speed financially. The management letter is a part of the process. It can definitely be viewed by council. I received that letter this morning. I didn't have enough time we didn't have enough time to meet with the auditors to review that letter and bring it to council. But we did find it very important to bring this to this group tonight for a few reasons and pass it because we really need to start working on 2023 budget. We want to make sure that we do not get held back on any funding from the province for being still working on 2021. But again, definitely we'll bring these stories and we do have a robust plan to bring the new council up to speed on where we are financially. So it will happen.
Any other questions on Mark's report, comments? Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the report? Councillor Park, Councillor Tedesco. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. 8.2 is a report on the purchase and sale of land from the CN Rail. Do members of council have any questions of Mr. Figlamini? Councillor Muir.
can you just give us a breakdown on this?
Yep, for sure. This represents, I guess, the last piece or the additional piece the original sale of the property that goes back to Mr. Di Gregorio purchasing the waterfront property. So what is in front of you right now is a purchase from CN Rail. So we had to purchase the pieces of land you see on that map from CN, which we were successful in doing, which it was quite a task, but we were successful in getting that land. So we, if approved by council, so we will then purchase that land, deem it surplus, and then sell it to Mr. Di Gregorio, so he can in essence construct or look at studying the ability to construct the original scope plan that he had. So it's kind of a bit complicated in the process that we have to go purchase that land, declare surplus, and then sell. But it is by CN practice that they prefer to do it in that manner. So they will take that land, sell it to a municipality, and then we will sell it after that.
Any other questions or comments on this sale? Councillor Muir?
So that wraps up all the land. So when is the environmental study going to start? Does he have a timeline?
Well, once we prove this by resolution, the rest ultimately at this point does lie in the hands of Mr. Di Gregorio, where he goes with the development and at what stage. He has initiated some studies based around environmental already, so some have taken place. This in no way, states that this development will ultimately be built or shovels will be in the ground tomorrow. But what it does do is it at least gives us the ability to think it might happen, and it very well could. So his timelines, he's aggressive. There's no doubt about it. He's purchasing the property, and he's aggressive in his developments. This isn't his first development by any means. So I think after this stage, we'll see where it goes from there. But I don't expect anything to be long drawn out delays. I would imagine he'll get started with that kind of work right away.
Any other questions or comments? So the reason why we were dealing with CN was because the original stake lines, which we assumed, right, had full access to the property or full scope, was not. So the line went close to the bridge, which would not give a right of way or a proper easement for a road to be going into the development. So we had to approach CN to purchase up to 6 acres or points something or close.
It's
Just so everyone, they might have forgotten because this has taken a long time.
Yeah, I can give
complete.
that little summary on it. Yeah, for sure. There's
So
so
we
many
needed,
different.
yeah, we needed to purchase that land. So then he would be able to, if anything, the original
Yeah, it's a-
design of the development that would give him enough land.
Yeah, it's that small piece that you see
Mhm.
here, and I don't have my good glasses to see that, but it is a small piece of land originally in the scope. The township was selling that as one parcel of land. When it got to a survey process early in 2021 or mid 2021, kind of just around that same time I was coming into this role, it was deemed quite quickly that that was not our property. So the scope of the project couldn't be developed the way it was. The reason he needs this property is because the elevation between the two properties is so great that basically he needs to be able to purchase this property, at which point he may even come to us at some point in the future for part 2 of this, because he needs to be able to scope that land back to build his original plan. So you're absolutely correct on that statement. It's why the process has been delayed to the point that it is because CN owns the property, and we couldn't sell property we don't own.
Dealing with lawyers is always takes an extra long time. Okay, so is there a mover and seconder for a motion to approve the purchase of roll number 5841-000-000-60600 and roll number 5841-000-000-95-000 from CN Rail in the amount of 40,000. Counselor Park, Counselor McDonald. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve this, approve the sale of roll number 5841-000-000-60600 and roll number 5841-000-000-95000 to Bruno's Contract Construction in the amount of 40,000. Counselor Muir, Counselor Park. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. That only took a few years. Okay, next report, 8.3, a report of an offer from Red Rock Developments to purchase municipal property of lots 113-115, Plan 780. Do members of council have any questions of Mr. Figlamini? Councillor Tedesco?
Mark, I presume it says Saul Street. I presume that's the piece of property between the credit union and what used to be Dunville Place. Is that piece of property, is that considered commercial or is that residential? Do you have any idea what the intention is?
It is considered, first question, it is considered to be a commercial piece of property. The reason it doesn't have a physical civic address, it's a non-developed piece of property at this point, right? These services are there, but they're basically located at the road. So the property's never been developed, although it is in a commercial area for tax purposes. I have had numerous conversations with Red Rock Developments of certain thoughts and ideas they have for not just the mill property, but other properties in and about the township of Red Rock. At this point, they've given me some indication that they would like to add value to the community by building some type of a park for children. That's one option that they have. They've also talked to me about the option that they may construct independent living for seniors type of a building in that capacity somewhere within the township. They deem this to be I guess it's one of the properties that we do have listed with a realtor. They've also got interest in multiple other properties that we may have that A, are listed and B, aren't listed at this point. But the best I can tell you is those are some of the conversations we've had, and they've made an offer for $28,500 to purchase that property.
Counselor Muir?
What's the property value at?
The property is valued at 87, so the assessment is 8,700 on the last MPAC rollout, right? So, which isn't uncommon for a vacant piece of property, especially the fact that MPAC hasn't phased in or done a reassessment on property since 2016, I believe. So what you are seeing is that number reflective now of today's kind of the changes in the economy today. I mean,
Any other questions or comments before I read the motion? Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve the sale of lots 113-115, Plan 780 to Red Rock Developments in the amount of 28,500? Councillor McDonald. Oops, Councillor Tedesco. All in favor? Are you abstaining? You're abstaining or no? Abstaining? One against, one abstaining.
I'm against. I'm against.
Okay. Okay, 3 hands for, 2 against, motion's carried. Okay, I had missed the selling of surplus lands. So I gotta go back to that.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I
Okay.
missed that. Yeah, you can read that one now, that will.
Yeah. So is there a mover and seconder for motion? This is back to the CN property. For motion to declare the following lands as surplus, roll number 5841-000-000-60600 and roll number 5841-000-000-95000. Counselor Muir, Counselor McDonald. All in favor? Okay, well, I already have that on it. Okay. Okay, next item is a report from administration regarding the financial final release statement from the township legal firm. Do members of the council have any questions of Mr. Figdamini? Okay, seeing none, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve the full and final release statement for 1890717 Ontario Inc. Court Settlement? Counselor Muir, Counselor McDonald. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Ooh, lots of numbers. Okay, next item, report on the CEMC and alternate appointments. Do members of council have any questions of Mr. Figlamini? Councillor Tedesco?
Mark, I see that you would be taking on this role of community emergency measures person. As I've mentioned before, I'm becoming very concerned about the amount of activities that you're involved in, and we really don't want to kill you. You've done so well. Is there a possibility that somebody in the upper echelons of the fire department could take that role on?
Well, that's currently how we have been doing it through the fire chief, acts as the CEMC. It's not sustainable that way, and it hasn't. We've known that for a while, based on the fact that it's not fair to a volunteer fire chief to take on that role. It is a significant role. Yeah, it does fall on me, but like I say a lot, it is what it is. It's also not ideal to have the fire chief be the CEMC when, if we were in an emergency, his feet should be on the ground first and foremost. It's something we need for compliance within the township, and what this does strategically at this time as well is it allows us 1 year to become and remain compliant with the change that we're allowed to make at this time in the calendar year. So we will work together as a team on this. We do have a good team that works together on a lot of projects within the township. So is it a lot to take on? Quite possibly, but again, it is what it is. And it's, in my opinion, it's not fair to a volunteer fire chief to have that on him. And it's also not in the best interest of the community to have your fire chief not have his feet on the ground if we are in a major emergency. So I guess that's the rationale and the thinking behind this. We had initially had a target of doing this within the first 6 months of me coming in. We've had a few things going on in the first year and a half. We were, and some great work by Chief Petrie, we did become compliant for the first time in many years, and we want to keep that going. And this is kind of the next step in the plan of doing that.
Mark, I was thinking perhaps more along the line of deputy chief as opposed to the fire chief, because I realize he's also swamped with a lot of responsibilities. And now with the additional attention towards the area, is there somebody else that might be able to, because, there's going to be meetings and things of that sort that you're going to be required to attend. And again, how much can you carry?
Well, I did come out of the alternate role, so I was at those meetings anyway. I am at those meetings. It's structurally important, and it's, as CEO of the municipality, I have to be there. It just makes a lot of sense. Samantha will act as that alternate, but she's also quite capable of taking that role on as well. But this at this point makes sense. The key to appointing it now is exactly that we do it by the end of the calendar year, so that we do meet our compliance piece, which then gives us 1 year to take the training. So I'm not going to disagree with you that it isn't extra workload, but it is what it is.
Nothing. Okay. I don't have any concerns over this. This could be something that we may in the future want to look at advertising to see if there's a member in the community, even though we'll meet compliance for this year and we'll take that training, but that might be something that we could look into in the future. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to appoint Mark Figlamini as the Community Emergency Management Coordinator, effective immediately, and furthermore to appoint Deputy Clerk Samantha Cameron as the alternate? Councillor Muir, Councillor Park. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, next item is a bylaw to confirm proceedings of council. Can I have a mover and seconder for motion to pass the bylaw? Councillor Park, Councillor McDonald. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. So as this is the last meeting of the 2018 elected councillors, I'd like to thank everyone for your service, your commitment to the community. Some it wasn't the full year, but nonetheless, it was great having you on. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of commitment, and sometimes it's not easy getting all the complaints, but everyone dealt with it, as best we could. We did the best. Sarah, 16 years, unheard of around here, so that's, not much more I can say to that, but thank you.
Thank you.
And Councillor Park. Okay, time being 8:13, I'd like to call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.